Hi, everyone. So my name is Will Sacco. I'm director of the Wooster School here in Danbury, Connecticut. And I brought together 4 faculty who were a part of a virtual series we did a few weeks ago. And I wanted to do a different recording with them in isolation so that we could broadcast this out to you. So without further ado, I'm going to let these 4 awesome faculty tell us a little bit about themselves, who they are, their role on campus, and how long they've been at Wooster. So why don't we start with Pete, and we'll work our way to Anne Marie through Chris and Helena.
Great. Hi, Will. Hi, everyone. I'm Pete Lingenheld. This is my 12th year at Wooster. I teach science in the 8th and 9th grade, so earth science and conceptual physics, respectively. I'm also a dean of students in our middle school.
Hi, I'm Anne Marie Macleod. I'm just finishing my 2nd year here at Wooster. I mainly work with the Humanities 1 students, which are the grade 9 students. And I also worked with Model UN this year.
Hi, I'm Chris Friedemann. I am upper school teacher. This is my 4th year here. This year I've taught ethical questions in science and engineering, introductory chemistry, as well as our DLI advanced chemical applications course. And I'm the faculty sponsor for our group Spectrum at GSA.
Hi, everyone. I'm Helena, and I teach English in middle and high school. I have 8th grade English and DLI classes for 11th and 12th graders. This year it was the story and literature. So, first year at Wooster.
All right. So my first question, and one of our protocols that we've used this year, is the Rose, Bud, and Thorn protocol. So this year, it's been tricky all throughout, but along this distance learning, something maybe bloomed for you. It was a really awesome experience. Something was still budding. Maybe I really liked where this was going, but I couldn't invest the time that way. And then there's always an occasional thorn with a rose, right? So what was kind of at your side that you'd like to maybe work on over the summer or into next year, no matter what is coming up for us next year? So why don't we go in reverse order here?
All right, I'll start us off. So something that has blossomed for me during distance learning is really the student-centered and individualized projects that we already value at Wooster, but I think by moving into distance learning and kind of prioritizing smaller groups and one-on-one meetings over the full class time, I was really able to give kids agency in how they turned in their final work. They had so many options, and I got everything from, creative projects reflecting a novel that we read, to letters to the author about the impact on their life, to slideshows about how to create your own magical realism project. So that was really exciting. Budding for me is figuring out the flipped classroom model in terms of, especially because it's my first year at Wooster, and first year even hearing that term flipped classroom in terms of having some pre-recorded lessons for kids to watch at their own time, and then using synchronous time to talk through those lessons and do the work together. That's something that I'm still working on, is having all of my recorded kind of cornerstone lessons for my courses. So that is going to be a big project over the summer. I think for me, the thorn is still thinking through screen time, and particularly in the English department, making sure that the work that I'm sending out to kids isn't all reliant on continuing to be on the screen, whether that's like videos or online resources, finding ways to get them reading and writing that is off the computer.
I think if I'm looking back on the past couple of weeks, a rose for me that's really blossomed has been the use of discrepant event videos. Teaching science in a virtual experience is challenging. You can't do that hands-on sort of exploration work. And the discrepant event videos are moments where you can capture these scenarios, and students think they understand what's going on, but in reality, once they learn the material, they see this whole other side to it, the inner workings to how it works. And that's been a really cool experience to kind of add into my curriculum, and something I'll definitely be keeping for everything moving forward. Students have really talked about how it's helped them see the material that they've grown with, from how little they knew to how much more they know, even at the end of a week. So it's been a nice piece for me. Budding for me has been the use of varied assessments and recognizing that not everyone needs to demonstrate their mastery of the content in one format. I've done that with a variety of units now where we've had all sorts of ways to approach that, and it's been a brilliant way of going about it. And then I think a thorn for me still is student accountability and making sure that we are creating experiences where when we get together, we're all on the same page, and that we can all have those moments to share that time together in a meaningful way. And managing the work on the back end of that has been challenging, but I think I've got some ideas to at least explore maybe.
So I can follow up to that, I think, a little bit anyway. When I think about the rows, I actually think about a video that I heard this morning, which was one of the culminating assessments for the freshmen. And what that freshman was able to do was reflect on her own growth in terms of skills and dispositions and her reading life, her writing life, her ability to collaborate with others. And it was one of those moments where, as an educator, you can just sit back and say, wow, it really happened. And I didn't know it was happening. It was an exquisite experience. So I agree with Helena and with Chris too, that in terms of the budding, one of the things that we're seeing is the idea of being able to personalize lessons so much more. And when I'm thinking of that, I can think over the last week, the hours really that I've spent with different students looking at different things that they're exploring, say the databases in the library, or their ability to create citations in MLA format. And it's the opportunity to really speak individually with each student about where they are and where they want to go and their perseverance in getting there. So opening up more opportunities like that, I feel like are budding. And the thorn is that I am a digital immigrant and I am learning so much about what comes intuitively to other people. But that's been great for me because I've learned so much from the kids and the ways that they look at technology and all of the different programs and applications that are available. And one of the great things is we've had tremendous support from the faculty, like Mr. Priedemann, helping me see all of the things that we can do with Alt School and all of the things that we can do with other platforms. So thank you.
That was so nice to hear from everybody. Great responses, and I suspect that there might be a few overlapping themes in mine as well. So for my rows or roses, I would say, because there's been a lot within this distance learning world, I'd say that my first one is just like physically seeing my students and seeing colleagues. That's always been a bright spot of every day, and I would even single out advisory as a non-academically intention time that I think for all of us has really been a big breath of fresh air every day. Just to have a little bit really low stakes, high value connection with students through that aspect of our work. Another rose has just been the outrageous, I think, like optimism and resilience and good nature and humor that our students have brought to all of this. As adults, I think you don't have to think too long and too hard to kind of have to put the brakes on about the unique and unprecedented nature of our experience right now. But you'd almost not know that our kids had never learned within this model before and never interacted with each other and their teachers in this model before. And I'm just endlessly high on and appreciative of everything that they've brought. From a teaching and learning perspective, I think the rose is like how much we can do within this type of learning environment, and how limitless might be a little bit hyperbolic, but I would say just how expansive the boundaries are in terms of what learning and teaching can look like and what student work and evidence of learning can look like. And I think that speaks a lot to some really strong pillars of practice and thinking about teaching that have been ongoing at Wooster far in advance of this spring. And I think it also speaks to the creativity and good nature and good humor of the teachers. In terms of, I'll go to Thorn next. In normal school, I know every day that I'm going to be intellectually active, physically active, just up and around, moving around campus, back and forth to classrooms and buildings and everything in between, and socially engaged and active. And that's with my colleagues and the students as well. So clearly the intellectual piece is as consistent as it's ever been. But I think for me and for all of you, and particularly for the kids, the lack of motion, the lack of direct human-to-human social contact has been, quite the thorn, I think, to be honest. Buds, again, touching on themes that have come up. I think that, there's been, and again, we were already really well positioned to do this. And I think that something that distance learning has done at Wooster is really bring even to the surface more quickly and more visibly, like all the really important and essential aspects of teaching and learning. For me, that's looked a lot like really understanding the endless quantity of pathways that there are through a learning experience for different kids, and honoring that and celebrating that, and really leaning into the challenge of like meeting students where they are. And again, I heard this come up from all my colleagues here, meeting students where they are and helping identify next steps, and realizing that moment to moment, day to day, even in the best of circumstances, that's always different for everybody. And I think that really committing to that and seeing that so clearly, and in an ongoing way, like creating workflows and learning experiences, and using technology and supports to honor that and help move kids forward has been a huge bud.
Wow, that was exquisite. The things that I heard in there, outrageous optimism. I just love that phrase, Pete. We might have to steal that. And then I actually want to go back to Anne Marie here, and maybe we'll start with you, Anne Marie. As you put it, a digital immigrant, this has pushed us, and we here at Wooster truly believe in the teacher as a learner alongside the child, right? That we should be learning and ever thinking about best practice and how we can meet all of the needs that I think Pete just articulated too of our kids. So we've had to learn alongside here, and I think maybe some of these new learnings and practices have stuck with us. So I wonder, what professionally have you been doing in professional development or PSG groups, peer support groups, faculty to faculty? And when we think about where we go next, has there been something that you're taking away from this experience and saying, this is now added to my cornerstone, kind of what Helena said, this is a pillar of my teaching world that I'm going to hold on into the years to come? Anne Marie, maybe you start. We'll go to Pete, Chris, and then end with Helena.
Okay. So when I think about that idea, the first thing that came into my mind was in professional development, all the different things that we were introduced to before we actually started distance learning. So the things like Calendly, Edpuzzles, Flipgrid, which were things that I had heard of, and some things like Kahoots that I had used before, but not things that we had integrated fully into the curriculum, because we were still able to be person to person, face to face. So I work with a partner, and I think one of the things that we'll be taking away is how to effectively use these programs to meet that goal of meeting each student individually, so that we can help them move forward, because they're all in very different places with these things and with the use of technology and all of that going forward, like what will be most effective to show and demonstrate their learning. And they're communicating, their ability to communicate with each other. Because one of the graces or big benefits of this, I think, was the way the faculty was able to communicate with each other in terms of the training first, but then also in terms of the support. So in those initial weeks in this peer support group that I belong to, we're looking at the challenges of just absorbing so much information, which made me think about the kids and what it must be like to be absorbing all of this from all these different subject areas. But talking about it and communicating about it is a huge step towards processing it and moving forward, making things work. So I would say those were the things that I'll be carrying into this next year, wherever that leads.
Okay, so just to frame this out a little bit, I think about so Wooster is the only school where I've ever been, sort of a traditional classroom teacher. I did some outdoor ed programs and things before, but the only independent school I've ever worked. So when I started 12 years ago, you had the text and you had your section review questions. And this was kind of pre-internet in the classroom, pre students having access to devices and electronics at all. And basically, it's an ongoing self-fulfilling prophecy of like, here's the section, there's the questions, let's discuss, and that's basically life. And to the degree that like the book says what it says, there's not a ton of like interpretive, meaningful, personalized potential within that. Like it just says what it says, and that's a great information delivery mechanism. But it's not really anywhere, light years distant from where we are now. So in terms of taking from this, very recent teaching and learning experience to carry forward. So we basically now have the ability with platforms like Altitude, and then, endless sort of tangential offshoots of that, and your Flipgrid and your Padlet and et cetera, ways to kind of cultivate and organize content from students. We're all creating lots of different learning experiences all the time. And the beauty of it is, let's say in conceptual physics, which is our 9th grade science class, students arrive to this class and ongoing through the year have many different levels of experience and confidence and comfort with some of the quantitative reasoning and algebraic problem solving skills that are important to physics. So I guess I would say it's easier in a distance learning environment to really embrace the idea that different students can be working on different things that are the best fit for them on that day to meet them where they are and help them take the next meaningful step forward. So I think the fact that like, I don't think any of us have ever just like lectured for an hour on a Zoom. That maybe you do that once and you're like, that was not great, right? So a lot of what we've been doing is greeting students, identifying goals, having some small group or individual meetings through the class period, but also a lot of students are working independently. And through that independent work, like I've really seen this concept of the right fit for the right kid on that day at that time really flourish. And that concept is really one that I think it's like when you think about it and talk about it and hear about it, it's like a little bit off-putting sometimes to imagine what that would look like in practice. But now to see very clearly that like what it looks like is the best learning for everybody on a daily basis has been really refreshing to see. And that is my response. Thank you.
I think for me, one of the things that came out of our training with Global Online Academy was, introductions or instructions don't have to be stagnant or stale. You can make them interesting, and you can use the video recordings to walk kids through things. And so I had been a flipped classroom teacher for the vast majority of my time at Wooster now. And that predominantly was only focused on lectures, where now I'm looking at it and going, well, why can't my worksheets have an animated GIF right embedded in it so they see the examples right there? Why can't I have myself walking through one problem and some audio that goes along with it, so that everything the kids are interacting with, they're getting the supports that they may need in order to be successful? And I think that was one of the things that the GOA course has really opened my eyes to, is it doesn't have to be one way and that's it. There's so many different ways that you can use these tools to kind of help kids find something they connect with to make them successful for whatever the task may be.
To follow up what Chris was saying, I kind of discovered something similar with using Screencastify to make videos of myself explaining something. Initially, I was thinking about it just for teaching a lesson, right? But as we progressed through the GOA course and just doing this in real time, I realized that I could make quick screencasts screencastify videos for everything that I was sending out to the kids, so they had the text assignment or the text description, the text steps, and then they had the video of me talking through it linked. And the video could be fun, it creates sort of the doubling of instructions to make it extra clear. It creates different pathways to gain understanding about the resource that's coming out. So that one I'm definitely going to take forward with me. It's so easy. You can use it also, I discovered, for feedback, right? Feedback can be video linked to kids. And, if it comes up that you can't be doing that in real time, they still have your face, they still have your voice. And I think that makes a huge difference, not just getting it in text.
Yeah, and I'm going to actually take Helena's point. I have seen a lot of students in the most recent week, as they've been doing video work, they've been using Screencastify, which is interesting because I don't think we necessarily had like a workshop with them in it, but we've all probably done one-off lessons on it. And somehow the cacophony of Screencastify videos I've seen sent my way from kids, it's pretty cool. So a teacher as learner and at the center of learning for our kids. The last question, and I offer this up as let's go from Helena back to Anne Marie. What's been the Wooster difference? You're an adult in a community, at different intervals of time here at Wooster. But whether it be from the kids, from the parents, you've heard maybe at parent-teacher or parent-student-teacher conferences, maybe you heard from them. But even stuff like graduation, which we will be having on campus, Wooster has always tried to be intentional and mindful. And so for you, what's resonated about the Wooster difference this spring and in general, but really just when we went to distance learning, we try to frame some things for you and everyone.
Right. So my first year at Wooster, it's been a crazy year, but I'm so grateful to be in this community, this educational community, rather than another one, because there's differences everywhere. It's almost an impossible question to answer. But one that I guess comes to mind first is the way that we've maintained the non-academic connections post-distance learning. I think Pete mentioned earlier having advisory time as a really simple one, but even beyond that, having things like the art shows and open mic and athletic opportunities. That's the stuff that, as a community, we're all missing and needing. And, it might not be exactly the same as it would be on campus, but we're trying, and it makes a huge difference.
I'm just going to follow right off from there. I don't know that I've ever had an office hours in my afternoon open link where I didn't have people just hanging out. I think Wooster's kids love being at Wooster. They want to be with their friends. They want to be with their teachers. They want to be talking through the things that are going on in the world or just what they had for lunch. They're inherently looking for those connections. And I think that even with the challenges that we faced, you almost can't hold them back. They're going to find you. And so, putting those links out that we have all this time period, they've used those to their benefit. They've found the means to connect with each other. I've had it where I've stepped away from my computer, went to lunch and came back, and there were 5 people hanging out in my virtual office without me even there. And so they're just looking for those opportunities to connect. And I think that makes it uniquely Wooster. They're not, shying away from the community and disappearing into their own worlds. They're actively looking to engage with Wooster and to engage with each other, which I think is really beautiful.
That was great feedback, and that's really nice to hear. I'll therefore kind of frame a little bit of a different angle or perspective. So I would say that when I think back to 3-ish months ago, kind of at the beginning of this transition, I would frame all of this as saying at Wooster, like, we learn here. Right? That's what we do. And students do it and teachers do it and our leadership team does it. And I think when that is your approach to every day at school, in an event of a sudden change, like, you find yourself really well prepared for that because you are approaching it with certain dispositions and practices that you've been building over time. So something that really stands out to me as a Wooster difference here, I would say would be the guidance and coaching from our leadership team and our teaching and learning leadership team in this partially expected but still very sudden transition to just not coming to school anymore. And I'm so impressed because there's never any panic. And in terms of like rolling out our distance learning program, I found it to be deliberate and patient and supportive and personalized and self-aware. And there was never any punishment if you had a question or didn't understand something or needed to be shown again. And I think that when we as teachers experience those qualities in being taught something from others, I think that it's so inevitable that we get even better and better at fulfilling our role in delivering those same dispositions and approaches to our students. So that's really been a huge difference that I've perceived over the last few months.
I can follow up on that. Thank you very much, Pete. Because as Pete was talking, as everyone was talking, I was thinking about two things that came up. And one came out of advisory. You know, our last advisory meeting, we were talking about gratitude and what we would be grateful for at the end of this experience. And the students said, one, talked specifically about leadership here at the school, talked about the head of school, talked about the administrators and the commitment they made and the way that they made those decisions. And I think that's a unique thing about Wooster, that our students would be able to reflect on gratitude in that way and look at the school instead of at their just at their experience, but the entire school community and the structure, how we moved forward. And then the second thing was that we often talk at Wooster about the qualities of being gentle, generous, truthful, kind, and brave. And I think those were evidenced by the faculty and also by the students in the level of flexibility that we took in terms of moving forward with this plan. And there was a certain confidence in one another, in the faculty to the administration and students to the faculty, et cetera, that is the foundation in a community for a whole community to function together and to grow. So I saw that flexibility and then that responsiveness to the changing situation as things evolve, being a quality that is unique to Wooster. And as a person who's participated in other educational systems, I feel confident that this is a unique situation with a very high level of commitment from the faculty to the idea of learning, but also to the whole community. And that makes an incredible difference in terms of creating that atmosphere of trust and growth as a community going forward, that would enable students to talk about such gratitude for their teachers, for the distance learning experience, even to talk about what they've learned during this time. I think those are the things that stand out to me about where we are at this time.
Wow. Thank you. And like, talk about gratitude. I'm feeling immense gratitude towards you for. I've asked you twice to be a part of teacher panels in the midst of virtual learning and a real learning curve, right, that we were all embarking on just 3 months ago. But your insight is necessary to really unveil for people what's happening here, because it is transformative. And I think that has been the thing that I've been hearing and seeing from all of you, that you have been inspirational, transformative in your classrooms, and I really appreciate all that you've done. And good luck wrapping things up in the grade books and all of that. And I appreciate your time today. So have a great rest of your Tuesday.